Hey everybody. I hope that you guys have got your resume, your cover letter, your job applications all ready, because the next step, once you've applied for that job, is to be called in for an interview. Now, there are two different kinds of interviews that can take place. Actually, there's three kinds of interviews that most commonly take place. The first one is called a phone interview. A phone interview is basically when the hiring person, manager, whoever's doing the hiring, when they give you a call just to kind of assess you a little bit over the phone to see if they actually want to have you come in for an interview. Now, that phone call is very important. You want to be sure that if you're expecting someone to call you for an interview, you don't call them and say, when they answer the phone, you answer it politely with a hello, or, not a yeah or a what. And I say that because I've literally had people answer the phone to me that way when I was calling them about a resume or job application that they had completed. When you're talking to someone on the phone that is a professional, you want to speak to them professionally. You want to use appropriate language. You don't want to use curse words. You want to have good grammar. You want to project well. You want to have good dialect. You just want to sound like you are a professional person. You do not want to make them think that you're not interested. You want to show them that you are absolutely the person for that job. Now, there's also a one-on-one interview, and that's where you go into that hiring person's office, and they sit down and they ask you some questions like, tell me about yourself, tell me how you heard about this job, tell me what you think this job might be or what it entails. They may ask you, tell me things you're not willing to do related to your work. They may ask you what makes you the best candidate for this job. So basically, it's another way to sell yourself, and they're comparing your answers on your resume with what you say. So they're wanting to be sure that, maybe you're the person who wrote this resume, or at least you know what's on it. Also, when you go to an interview, you want to be dressed professionally. You want to know where you're going to work. So if you're applying for a job at a healthcare facility, business casual, which is a nice shirt and dress pants and a nice, decent pair of shoes, not tennis shoes, not Converse, but a decent pair of kind of dress shoes, flat, something like that. Or what is appropriate. Also, a set of scrubs is appropriate. Scrubs and tennis shoes would be appropriate. If you're going to apply for a job at McDonald's, you still should wear a nice shirt and if you're going to wear pants, a colored pair of jeans even that have no holes in them, and a clean pair of shoes. You want to be sure that you dress appropriate to where you're going to work. If you're going to go work in a business office, you want to be dressed in business attire. So just be aware that you need to look professional no matter where you go in an interview. Show up 5 minutes early, at least 5 to 10 minutes early, and understand that you may sit another 15 minutes, but that you're okay sitting there 5 to 10 minutes. Show up early. Have a copy of your resume and your cover letter, or actually have several copies with you. That way, if it happens to be a panel interview, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, you have resumes available for them. Now, they may already have a copy and tell you have a copy, but have that in a folder and have it ready, because it just shows you're prepared. Do your research about the company. Know about the company. Know what the position, know the job description. I gave you guys job descriptions. Know the job descriptions. And when they ask you what your strengths and weaknesses are, refer back to that job description and say, well, as you stated in the job description for this position, I am highly motivated. I'm a self-starter. I'm a really good team player. I can take the lead when you need me to, but as an entry level person, I'm definitely a team player and wanting to learn. Some of my weaknesses are I don't have hands-on skills at this position, but I have a basic knowledge of, so that's what they're asking. Like when I started when I went to work as a teacher, I had never been a teacher before. I'd been a nurse for so many years. And when I interviewed, one of the things I told them was, as a nurse, I've been teaching people my whole career. And I have, but it's in a very different capacity where I was teaching an individual about a diet or about their medicine or about how to take care of a wound. I was teaching that individual things like that. I was teaching other staff members about new laws and new regulations and new policy and procedure. I was teaching them about how to complete forms, but I was still teaching. It was just in a different capacity. So you have to think about when you're applying for a job, if you have a skill or you have an understanding of something, it may not be exactly what they have asked for. But if you've done something similar to it, let them know. That's how you sell yourself. That's how you show them. Yeah, I want to learn how to do this, and I have some basic knowledge that you can build on. If you're gonna do a mock interview, or if you're going to do, when you do your mock interview, if it happens to be a panel interview, those may be some very different questions. They may not necessarily be questions specific about the job. Some places have a set of 20 to 30 questions they ask every applicant, no matter what position. And it may be, tell us about a time you've had a conflict with a coworker or with a partner that you were working with, and why did you have that conflict, and how did you resolve it? That may be a question. It may be a question of, tell us about a time where you've had to think outside of the box to solve a problem or complete a project. Tell us about a time that you have overcome an issue and put yourself in the back seat so that the group as a whole completed a task. Just things like that. They may ask you questions like that. So depending on what kind of mock interview you're going to do, whether it's an individual or a panel interview, you want to be sure that you do research. You can call and ask human resources at a position. Do you do individual interviews or do you do panel interviews? I was just curious in preparing for this, my interview that's coming up. There's nothing wrong with that. Remember, write it down. When someone calls you to come in for an interview, write down not only who called you, but write down who you're interviewing with, because it might not be the same person. And then just remember a couple of other things. Be in a pleasant mood. Have a pleasant face. Be smiling. Be appropriate. Be professional looking. And when you walk in, shake someone's hand. Look them in the eye, shake their hand, tell them good morning, good afternoon, thank you for your time. I want to let you know in advance how much I appreciate this interview. And then you get on with business. So read through this mock interview assignment. Know what you're going to be doing. This will be a test grade, just like your resume and your cover letter. And just be prepared for when you do your interview. There's going to be a rubric for this as well. So just be sure you're going to start them. You're going to start the next class day is when you're going to start your interview process. You're going to have a couple of days for the class to complete their interviews, and then we will move on. And those will be your test grades. Your resume, cover letter, and your mock interview will be the test grades for this unit. So work hard and be prepared, okay? All right, thanks, everybody. Have a great day.